living with a major injury or illness, it can cost you $1 million a year. We did a block with one of our clients where just her one day of waking up to going to bed costs over $100,000. So,
And that's between her pills, her
yep,
equipment, and
caregiving, equipment,
getting.
all of that. Yeah, exactly. We are a national nonprofit that serves individuals living with major medical conditions, such as needing life-saving organ transplants, living with catastrophic injuries, catastrophic illnesses. And we help them go into their community to fundraise for their medical expenses and related costs. So just to even see the evolving of how our clients evolve with their fundraising and allowing them to really grow and become their independent, which is what, these medical expenses and these durable medical equipment allow individuals to gain that freedom to feel independent. And that's really amazing. Help Hope Live is here to help with the medical fundraising so that we are safeguarding the individual. That is the biggest point, really.
Welcome to the Wheel With It podcast with your host, Devon. Let's get into the episode.
Welcome to another episode of Wheel With It. My name is Devon Readers, and today we have Sunny Mullen, and she is from a incredible organization called Help Hope Live, and we're going to get all into what they do. And so, Sunny, why don't you tell us about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate the time. As Devon said, my name is Sunny Mullen. I'm the director of outreach with Help Hope Live. And I've been with Help Hope Live now for just over 8 years. Started out in our finance department and then helped open up our outreach department where we get to share the mission of the nonprofit all over the country to anyone who might need us. We are a national nonprofit that serves individuals living with major medical conditions, such as needing life-saving organ transplants, living with catastrophic injuries, catastrophic illnesses. And we help them go into their community to fundraise for their medical expenses and related costs.
So tell us why that's important and why that's harder for the disability community than it would be for the average person.
So yeah, and one of the biggest advantages to coming to Help Hope Live to do your fundraising over a more common or just widely known fundraising platform is that we manage the funds that are raised in honor of the individual doing the fundraising. So they are fundraising for Help Hope Live in their honor. And therefore, they are not that person's individual assets and they should not affect their benefits or their household income, which for the disability community is a huge, huge risk because every state has different guidelines, but there are income caps. If you are on Medicaid, Medicare, you really need to check with your state legislature to figure out what your income cap is. It can be anywhere from $2,000 to $30,000, but you really need to know that you aren't putting your benefits at risk by doing fundraising on X amount of platforms, whichever platform you choose. And also, by us being a nonprofit, you're also giving your community a tax deductible donation. And we also medically verify everyone we work with. So we allow everyone to really be safeguarded and have the knowledge of the fact that all of the donations are going toward the right place for the right reasons.
Which is amazing. Tell us more about the waivers and the asset limits and all that and why that is so confusing and ridiculous.
Well, I certainly can't claim to be a Medicaid expert or anything like that, but I will just say
I cannot claim to be a Medicaid expert. This is just a basic overview of why it's complicated and ridiculous.
yeah. Well, and like I said, so each state has its own restrictions. So that's why, we are a national nonprofit. So it's not, we can't really make one blanket statement. All of our clients need to go and look at their own Medicaid guidelines and see
And
what
if
they're.
you want those guidelines, you can just Google whatever state you live in, like Medicaid waiver guidelines, and they should like pop up.
There you go. And so we're here to just help kind of not have that one restriction really affect your everyday life and allow you to do your fundraising in a really safe and supportive manner.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but most state income caps are equivalent to a starting salary, correct? So
I do not know. So I can't really claim either way.
Well, I think most of them are equivalent to a, what would be a starting salary, therefore making it impossible to work and be a productive tax-paying member of society and afford your equipment. So that's what the big issue is. And the asset limits are crazy because you can survive off of $2,000 in assets and $3,000 for a couple. Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy. So
Yeah.
I don't
No, and
know.
I mean, obviously, living with a major injury or illness, it can cost you $1 million a year. But we did a blind test with one of our clients where just her one day of waking up to going to bed costs over $100,000. So
And that's between her pills, her
Yep.
equipment, and
caregiving, equipment,
caregiving.
all of that. Yeah, exactly. And the different types
So,
of equipment that she uses. And so that's just one day of living her just everyday life.
tell me about some of this equipment and how much it costs. I know, but still our audience may not. So please
Yeah.
tell me how ridiculously expensive this equipment is.
So we help individuals fundraise for anything they might need related to their condition. So that can be electric wheelchairs, it can be manual wheelchairs, it can be adaptive bicycles, it can be standing frames, Hoyer lifts, stair lifts, home modifications, all the way up to an adaptive vehicle, which can cost $70,000.
And yes, you heard that correctly. Not to get too deep in the weeds of my own personal finances, but my youth van cost 30-some thousand dollars.
Yeah, vehicles are very expensive. So that's something that even with the best insurance isn't going to be covered by insurance. And so that
No, because they don't consider it like an everyday need, I wouldn't think. So all they consider everyday needs are like physical and occupational therapy because it helps you with your daily living skills, meds, and maybe a wheelchair depending on what kind of services you had, but increasingly not even that, which I don't e so, like, they basically just say, "Oh, like, you don't need to go anywhere, like, you have public transportation," and I'm like, "Not everybody has access to accessible public transportation." So, anyway, they don't cover those, and the most the Medicaid waiver will cover, at least in my state, is $5,000, and when we tried to get my ceiling lift, part of it covered through the Medicaid waiver, we finally did it, but it took us a year and a half. So,
a lot of fighting involved for sure.
yes, so it's insanely crazy.
Yeah, most pieces of equipment are certainly going to be in the thousands, if not the tens of thousands. So
Yeah, and why do you think the bands cost so much? Is it like the labor that they have to do, or is it like
I mean, again, I'm not an expert on adaptive vehicles, but there's a lot of mechanics that go into making that van adaptive. So there is a lot that goes into it, but I can't really speak to why it's so expensive.
yeah. Do you have like a success story? What's your favorite success story?
Let's see. We have a handful from all over the country, but and I will say too, success looks very different to everyone. So everyone has a different gauge on what success is. But certainly I know we've had one client that's been with us for over 10 years that just the fact that he is still with us, his family's been able to modify his home, he's living his everyday life now and doing really well for himself. That I'm really excited about. I will say I met the parents of another client recently, and he's now moved into his own apartment. And so just to even see the evolving of how our clients evolve with their fundraising and allowing them to really grow and become their independent, which is what these medical expenses and these durable medical equipment allow individuals to gain that freedom to feel independent. And that's really amazing to see is that. And then even just the relationships that we make with certain vendors and with certain schools, that to see that evolution of those relationships from helping their kiddos to them supporting us, that is really successful to me as well. But, we've had one client, and I will say this is completely an outlier, but she had a phenomenal community around her, and they were able to raise $1 million in a year. And
Holy cow.
that is not something that happens all the time. That is for, the white elephant of the fundraising world, but it was pretty amazing to see. So just to see the community rally around this individual. So, and like I said, success is different to everyone. We had one client who had 2 weekends of yard sales in 2 different states and raised over $10,000. And that was amazing. So that's where, we try to find success in little ways with each and every person. We share a lot of stories amongst our staff and sharing the good things that come along because it can be hard, certainly. So there's definitely, when we help a client get a service animal and we share all the cute dog pictures, or we help someone access a van and truly gain their independence. There's a lot that really does come out of fundraising and doing it the right way with the support that we offer.
So, like, say a client raises money from a yard sale, for example. How do they give you the money? How do they send you the money? Because I would imagine that they can't transfer it, right? Electronic, because
No, we can't transfer it electronically, but so a couple ways that our clients can get set up when they're doing their fundraising is, depending on the fundraiser they're doing, we have the Apple Squares that they can use to be able to take credit card payments if needed. So we can all pay them.
and then it's connected to their Help Hope Live account.
It's connected to our bank account, and then we know how to track their fundraising efforts and how to make sure that that gets attributed in honor of their campaign. And then also we have clients that, if they have a major fundraiser and they're collecting checks, we have clients that send checks into our office. A lot of the fundraising is done through direct donation right on their campaign pages. So that's the best way of doing a lot of that. But yeah, so we're processing donations every single day.
And let's get to how I heard about you guys, which is Patrice the movie. And for those of us who don't know and haven't told everybody, including their elected officials and presidential candidates, to watch it, tell us what that movie's about.
So our client Patrice Jetter, without us even realizing, was being followed for a documentary, and she has a really great life story of she is a crossing guard at a school district in Hamilton, New Jersey, and had been having trouble. She was trying to fundraise toward a van, and she has some amazing friends and family and people that were helping her fundraise. But because of the way that the funds were coming in and the manner that she did her fundraising, she did actually end up losing her housing voucher. And so that's where she ended up finding us at that point, Help Hope Live, to be able to help her fundraise in that safe and supportive manner. And then we were able to help her fundraise toward her vehicle, which was phenomenal. But I will say that is one small part of her story. So the bigger part of her story and why they're really tracking her is that her and her partner, Gary, want to be able to get married. And they are fighting with the government over disability marriage tax, which is basically the marriage penalty, they'll say, which is when two individuals or even one individual, when they want to get married to someone else, if they're on Medicaid, Medicare, they're at risk of losing their benefits. And so that's the really sticky part. And that's what Patrice and Gary are fighting at this point. And what the majority of the documentary is really about her life story from the time she was a child to now she is an adult, and what she's been doing now, especially fighting this marriage penalty. But us helping her fundraise toward her van is a very unexpected but wonderful part of that story as well.
Yes, which is crazy about the marriage penalty, because are there technically workaround? Yes, my friend has found a workaround. She lives with her partner, but he has to be her living caregiver. Or I guess you could technically pay rent to somebody and be like, I'm not supporting him, like he's my landlord. But you shouldn't have to do calculus just because you're disabled and want to live. That's crazy. And a lot of states don't even have a living caregiver option. So if you can't convince the government in a lot of states that you're renting a will, can't live together, which is crazy. So that needs to be changed. And it's so confusing because every time I think I'm like, okay, I know this now, I will research something else and be like, okay, I have 20 million more questions. So it's just, I have full cognitive faculties and I can't even understand
No,
half of it.
I certainly can't.
It's crazy what we have to go through because that's crazy. So tell us about the reaction to the film that you've seen.
I mean, it's been wonderful. We've been able to attend. We're local here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So we were able to attend a friends and family screening here in Philadelphia that the production team had. And we've been following ever since then. And just to see the support that Patrice is getting on a national scale is phenomenal and really well deserved for all.
And like, I have to say this because our audience might think, oh my gosh, I don't want to watch another like woe is me film. There's too much going on in the world. But like Patrice, you will pee your pants black. She's
Yes.
hilarious. She has no filter. So whatever goes through her mind comes out her mouth. It is hilarious. One of the funniest movies you'll see. And so tell us about how you started working at Help Live. We got together.
Yeah, so I've been with Help Live now for just over 8 years. And I previously was living and working in New York City in a totally different realm, working in television production. And I wanted to move home to be closer to family and to also kind of take the turn again into the nonprofit world, which I have grew up in. And I was able to find Help Live through a friend of mine that was at the time working with Help Live. And so they had an opening in finance. And I said, you know what? I don't do finance. I worked in television for 10 years. And she was like, it's fine. Just come in, interview. It'll be okay. And I did. And it ended up being mostly about communication. The job was handling our fund requests that our clients send in on their behalf for us to pay their bills. And it really was. It was communicating with our clients. So that I could do. And so I did that for about 2.5 years or so, maybe 3 years. But my end goal was always to be able to start this kind of outreach department, to be able to share the mission of a nonprofit that I believed in. And so I was able to help plan and organize our outreach department in effect that we now go out to well over 20 conferences a year and speak and exhibit and really bring our mission to a national scale. And so it's been really exciting to see how we've grown in the vendor world, in the medical professional world, and getting our word out there to be able to let people know that there is a place for the GoFundMes, but there is a place for Help Live as well. And they can live side by side because Help Live is here to help with the medical fundraising so that we are safeguarding the individual. That is the biggest point, really.
But you guys not only help fundraise for medical equipment, you also help people keep their lights on too. Is that correct?
We can. That is one thing that we do help with. That's not the majority of what we do, but it is one of the bills that we can help with once a year, is that we can help with utilities and your mortgage or rent if it is related to your medical condition. Because some people, if they're going through a transplant and they're out of work for a while, they might need some assistance in paying those utilities as well. So that is one thing that we do assist with. But, overall, it's really anything related to the medical condition. So as I had mentioned before, home modifications, different types of wheelchairs, all the way down to adaptive bicycles, beach wheelchairs, and different types of therapies from, equine therapy to PT, OT, swimming, all of the above that can help an individual live their lives a little easier.
Yeah. So what can folks do if they want to donate to you or they want to find out more or help out in any way?
Well, we certainly welcome any and all donations at www.helphopelive.org, and there is a donate button on the top right corner of our website. And to learn more, go to the same place, our website, helphopelive.org. We have a great blog under the latest tab that really tells you a lot about our clients and the community that we've built through the years. We've been around now for just over 41 years. So we've helped well over 20,000 individuals with their fundraising efforts. And that blog really tells a lot of our stories. There's also a great FAQ section. So a lot of the information you can find is right on our website, which is the best place. But also we're on all the socials at helphopelive.org. So we're really active on Instagram and Facebook. And we also, outside of that, have brand ambassadors who are Help Live clients that have been with us for a while and have had success in their own right in fundraising. And so if you ever want to speak to someone on a firsthand basis to learn more about their efforts and how this could maybe apply to you, we can set you up with a brand ambassador also to have that conversation. So all of our information is out there up front. Our website is truly the best place to start. And if you're interested, you can also just give us a call at 800-642-8399 and speak to any of our coordinators.
And they're very nice on the phone. They have great customer service. So
Thank you.
one more question about the logistics of this whole thing. So, like, once they're ready to buy, like, the van, in Patrice's case, how do they go buy it? Do you guys have a credit card since it can never
No.
reach their account?
Yeah. So the individual will be working with their vendor, figuring out what it is that they need. And then the vendor supplies them with an invoice. And so then they will send to us a request form, which is a cover letter basically for their bill that they access through their campaign page, and their invoice. And then we pay the vendor directly by check or by direct deposit. So it's a pretty clean process. We pay direct to vendor as much as possible. We can also reimburse for certain items when needed, but it really is that direct to vendor so that, the family doesn't ever have to put that money out otherwise. But it really is the client working with their vendor to get the bill, and then they get the bill to us, and then we pay.
Okay. Do you have anybody with disabilities in your family? Is that what brought you to the cause? Because most able-bodied people don't understand this unless they have people with disabilities.
Yeah, so I actually do. I have a younger brother who will be 29 in 3 weeks, and his name is Tristan. He lives with a rare genetic disorder that really kind of is a full body compromise. It's called GRIN1. He has cortical vision impairment, he has seizure disorder, he's nonverbal, he doesn't walk. So I've grown up with Trey in my life for the last almost 29 years of adapting and figuring out how to navigate this world and seeing my parents fight those fights of what insurance will cover and what it won't. And all of the different struggles that they've gone through. And so that was a big factor to me wanting to be able to come and help this community.
That is awesome. So anything else that you want to add before we get off here?
I also want to stress, all of what we're here to offer for this community is free for them to use. So we don't charge our clients for anything we do. We want you to come in and start working with us and to, hopefully get on that path of fundraising success, but it is free for them to use. There is a 3% administration fee on the donations that come in, but that is on the donor side and they can cover those fees. So like I said, we've been around for over 41 years. We have a success rate. We've helped our clients raise over $188 million in those 41 years.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so we can help, and we want you to not feel as alone in the process.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here today. And if folks want to get in touch with you, we'll have all the things we just talked about in the show notes. And we will see you guys next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to follow the show and our guests on social media and subscribe. Be sure to hit the bell so you'll get notified when we upload new episodes. See you next time.